Hello, it's Friday the 26th of October. Tonight's EuroMillions jackpot is £63 million. Now, last Tuesday, these numbers came out. It was machine 1, set balls 5, like it has been all month. Now, in my last couple of videos, you might recognise this from when I did a analysis grid. Well, now I have improved the analysis grid, and now it looks more like this. Now, this is an analysis of all machines, all sets of balls, full draw history. Got the main numbers on the left and the star numbers on the right. This is the most overdue main number, most frequent main number, and the main number that is most overdue for its frequency. Now, what that looks like on a chart is this. I'll just show you what it looks like. Now, this is a chart for all machines, all sets of balls, full draw history since the EuroMillions began. So as you can see, number 50 has come out 140 times, and the last draw that it occurred in was draw 1150. And so when you look at any number, you can tell how many times it's come out, what the last draw is that it came out in, and so the numbers are scattered about on this two-dimensional plane according to the frequency and recency. Now, the most overdue number is the one that's got the lowest draw number when it last come out. So there's number 13. Then we've got 50 at this furthest right end of the chart, so that's the most frequent. And to measure which one is most overdue for its frequency, you have to draw a rectangle from the number to the opposite corner, to the bottom left corner of the chart, and count the number of squares. And the one with the most is the one that's most overdue for its frequency. So the measure of which is most overdue for its frequency takes into account both axes, the how overdue it is, as well as how frequent it is, in order to see which number stands out most when we're looking at both those factors together. So when we're just looking at frequency, we're only looking at one line to see which has got the longest line. And when we're looking at recency, or should I say how overdue a number is, we're just looking at one line, which is this line, the vertical line. So the one that's most overdue for its frequency, when we're looking at how overdue each number is for its frequency, we're basically measuring an area. So when it comes to finding which is most overdue, we're measuring vertical lines, most frequent, horizontal lines, and most overdue for its frequency is areas. So this is a chart, and these are the most outstanding numbers. Now, for any chart, that's what I'm looking at, that's what I'm analysing. So what I want to find is the numbers that stand out, and so on this section of the analyzer it tells me that main number 13 is blue, so that means it's most overdue. Number 19 shows up purple, that means it's most overdue for its frequency, and number 50 shows up green, that means it's most frequent. So I've colour coded the numbers as well, so I know which ones they are, and I also can tell by the position in the analyzer section. And I've done the same thing for the star numbers, and so each cell of this grid contains an analysis. Now, what I've done is I've analysed full draw history, the draw history since the star numbers went up to 12 in draw 940, and then I've only looked at draws where the current set of balls, which is set 5, has been used. So I've got set of balls 5, full draw history, turns out number 10 most overdue for its frequency in that one. And then when we look at recent history, it's the same, because set of balls 5 has only been used recently. And when I look at machine 1, all the draws where machine 1's been used, if I produce a chart for that, then you can see, in fact I'll show you that chart because it's quite interesting. So machine 1, full draw history, this is what that chart looks like. So we've got 18 most overdue with that machine, 19 again most overdue for its frequency, and 50 most frequent with that one as well. Now, if we look at that in recent history, since the star numbers went up to 12, we get this chart, which is kind of a weird shaped chart. And because 18's so overdue, it's kind of stretched out vertically. So number 18 really needs to come out, because that chart is ridiculously stretched out on a vertical axis. So I would predict that number 18 is going to come out. So what I've also done is I've done an analysis for only the draws where number 18's come out to produce this analysis, showing that 44 is most frequent with 18, number 3 is most overdue with 18, and then for different combinations of machine, ball set, which draws I'm looking at. This is quite an in-depth analysis, looking at all kinds of different things. Now, I'm going to analyse the latest result, and what I can do is look at all the coincidences. So the last draw was 11:57, that was last Tuesday. These are the main numbers that came out, these are the star numbers, machine 1, set of balls 5. Now, if we look at the draw history right up until just before that draw, so we're looking at all the draws up to draw 11:56, then we can see if these numbers stood out at all when we do an analysis. So I'm looking at machine 1, set of balls 5, recent history, and it turns out that the most overdue for its frequency was number 5. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these numbers at the top of each of these live analysis sections, and underneath in the yellow box it produces an analysis for each of the numbers. So the first one is an analysis just for the machine, set of balls and draw history that I've specified, and then in the next box it's looking at only the draws where number 1's come out to see the chart, which numbers stand out on that chart. And when I tick this box, now it only looks at coincidences. So it's a coincidence that number 5 was most overdue for its frequency when we look at machine 1, set of balls 5 and recent history. So I will make a note of that in the corresponding box below. So that's a coincidence. Now it's the same when we look at full history. So now I've done these two rows, so now I'm going to look at just machine 1 on its own to see what coincidences I can find. Now, in this one it turns out that when we look at machine 1, number 32 was most overdue for its frequency with number 2, and star number 2 was most overdue with main number 2. Also, when we look at a chart for number 32, main number 2 was most overdue for its frequency with 32, so 2 and 32 outstanding with each other. And when we look at recent history, then we get nothing. So now let's move on to set of balls 5 on its own. So first of all, now it's this row. The only thing that stands out is star number 2 was most frequent with star number 12. And when we look at set of balls 5 on its own, same again. So it makes no difference whether we look at recent or full history, because set of balls 5 has only been used recently anyway. Now when we look at all machines and all sets of balls and the full draw history, then again we've got 32 and 2 both most overdue for the frequencies with each other. So I'll just make a note of that. We could have predicted number 2 for that reason, and 32 for that reason, and 35, not 35, I mean number 5, because it was most outstanding with machine 1 and set of balls 5. And then star number 2 stood out with these numbers as well. So if we'd started by looking at this chart, you know, the one for machine 1, set of balls 5, after draw 11:56, then the analyzer predicts that main number 5 was most overdue for its frequency, so could have predicted that by looking at this chart, and if we'd done that and predicted it, it would have coincided with the next outcome. And so that's why I only got one number in the last draw, because I only predicted number 5. And if we look at number 5, if you look at the analysis under number 5, it doesn't lead to anything else. So basically, these are all the coincidences from this set of numbers that came out in the last draw. So it seemed to be, hang on, let me just go through that again, see if I've missed anything. Right. So recent history, that's empty. Set of balls 5, recent history. Ah, yes, I have missed something. Set of balls 5 and full history. Give it time to update. Come on. Right, I've got number 2 there. I'm sure I just saw number 12. Right, we'll look at full history. Set of balls 5. What do we get? Get a 2 there. Why is that 12 not there? I don't know. Right, recent history and machines, all machines and all sets of balls. There it is. I knew I'd seen that. Right. So 32 pointed to 12 and 5 pointed to 2. Right, so could have predicted number 5, and then looking at number 5 could have predicted star number 2. And looking at star number 2, couldn't have predicted anything from that. So as far as I could have got is main number 5, star number 2. Now, in my last video, my last video, I pointed out all the outstanding pairs. On the chart, I went through all the numbers and showed which numbers were outstanding pairs with each other. So on the chart for main number 2, you can see 32 most overdue for its frequency, and it's same when we look at all machines. And when I looked at number 32, you could have noticed that 2 was most overdue for its frequency on that. And when I did the same for machine 1, if you'd noticed that it was number 2 again with 32, then you could have predicted 2 and 32 for that reason. So that was an outstanding pair, possibly a 2-number optic. If you'd known, you could have put a 2-number optic on those 2 numbers and you could have won £100. Now, I was planning to put all the outstanding pairs on, especially the ones that point to each other like this, but when I went online to try and buy me tickets, there was a problem and I couldn't add funds to my account, so I couldn't buy any tickets to put these numbers on, so that sucked. Right, anyway, that concludes the analysis grid, but I'm going to show you things that I'm not picking up on this analyzer, because it's only looking at the numbers that are most outstanding, either because the most frequent, most overdue, or most overdue for the frequency. So what I'm going to show you now is, for example, looking at the chart for number 32, number 32, full draw history. Right, you can see number 2's most outstanding, but did you notice that number 1 was on the edge of the chart? So it's kind of noticeable that number 1's there on that one. And if we look at number 2, let's see if number 1's on the edge of the chart for that one as well. Well, there's number 1, kind of near to the edge of the chart. So we're also looking for 21. So let's see, let's just look at all the numbers and see where the winning numbers were. Okay, so this is where the winning numbers were. 2 and 32, 1, 5, 21. Now, let's look at all the numbers. Let's see how the chart transformed when these numbers came out. So, not much of a transformation there, because only 10% of the numbers actually move in any draw. But what I want to show you is, for instance, when we look at the chart for number 1, there's 32 on the edge of the chart, and let's see where the winning numbers were. That's where they were. Now if we look at 21, let's see where the winning numbers were on that. So when we look at 21, they don't seem to stand out much. But what if we look at pairs of numbers? So 2 and 32 together. Let's see what stands out. Okay, they don't stand out on that. So let's look at 2 and 5. Now obviously, because we've narrowed it down to only the draws where certain pairs occurred, we're only actually looking at 5 draws, so you can't really see much on the chart for that. So let's look at another pair of numbers. Sometimes when you look at pairs, like for instance this pair, 32 and star number 2, look where number 1 is. It's very close to the edge of the chart. So if we look at that one, then so you can see that the numbers that came out were close to the edge of the chart generally. But anyway, I can't really analyse much deeper than that in this video because I don't want to make it too long. So what I'm going to do now is look at all the numbers that stand out at the moment. So in recent history, the most outstanding star number is star number 4. And if I just show you a chart for recent history since the star numbers went up to 12, just looking at the star numbers, you can see number 4 is most overdue for its frequency. So let's look at star number 4 and see what stands out with that. And when we do that, we get these numbers, and if we narrow it down to the set of balls that's in use at the moment, which is set 5, then it turns out that number 11 is most outstanding with number 4 because it's most frequent and most overdue for its frequency. Now that's just for that set of balls. If we look at machine 1 as well, now nothing turns up as most outstanding, probably because if I look at that on the chart, then it's very small, so nothing stands out. So what I'll do is I'm going to fill in the analysis grid showing all the most outstanding numbers for each combination of whether we're looking at the machine, the set of balls, or the full draw history, recent history, or whether we're looking at all machines or all sets of balls. So there are 3 variables. Each variable can be in one of 2 states, which means that there's 2 to the power of 3 rows to fill in. So I'm going to copy the analysis manually onto each cell so that you can see for yourself which numbers stand out, and then I'm going to look at the numbers. And when I look at the numbers, if you see numbers that point to each other, then you've got yourself a coincidence. And when you've got coincidences, that's when you can predict things that are going to coincide. So now I'm looking at set of balls 5, recent history. So I've got 10 most overdue for its frequency with that set of balls in the recent history. And because that set of balls has only been used recently, that means that it will be the same when we look at the full history. So that's the same there as well. So I'm building up a picture of the numbers that stand out. So when we're looking at all machines and sets of balls, we've got 13 most overdue, 19 most overdue for its frequency, and 50 most frequent. So that completes the analysis for all the numbers individually. And now what I'm going to do is do the same for number 4. So to make things quick, I will just pause the video while I do that. Okay, so that's number 4 analysed. Star number 4. These are the numbers that stand out with it. So now what I want to do is pick a main number. Now if we look at all the coincidences, now because of how weird the chart looked for machine 1, when I looked at machine 1, get this chart. In fact, when I looked at machine 1 in recent history, without setup, without star number 4. Alright. Now this is the oddly misshapen chart that I'm looking at for machine 1 in recent history. And I think that the most obvious main number to pick is number 18 because of the way that it stands out on this chart. I've looked at all the charts, so I've got machine 1, recent history, machine 1, full history. This is the full history chart. And number 18 stands out because it's definitely most overdue by quite a lot. So I'm going to analyse number 18, and when I put that into the analyzer, let's see what coincidence we can get. Well, we don't get any looking at that. But if we look at 18 and machine 1, is it going to point to number 4, star number 4? Oh, I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to do an analysis for number 18. Well, I'll just fast forward to complete that very quickly. Okay, so now we've got all the numbers that stand out with number 18, and I think it's quite obvious that 44 is most frequent with 18. Now, number 4 doesn't point to 44 as well. So what I'm going to look at now is if any of these numbers or these numbers match, and it doesn't look like they do. So when I'm looking at number 4 and machine 1, number 11 stands out. When I'm looking at number 4 and set of balls 5, number 11 stands out. But when I look at machine 1 and set of balls 5 together, it doesn't stand out. However, I'm going to pick number 11 because it stands out in 2 different ways with star number 4. Now, it doesn't stand out with 18, doesn't stand out on the main chart, but it certainly stands out with star number 4. So I'm going to do an analysis now for star number 11. So that's the analysis for number 11 complete, and I noticed that when we look at these numbers and these numbers, now we're getting some sort of coincidences. Coincidence being that I noticed number 38 comes up with 11 and 4. I noticed that 11 strongly points to star number 4 in the same way that 4 points to 11. And it turns out 33 is most overdue with number 11 when we look at machine 1. And if I notice down there, I've got number 33 most overdue for its frequency when we look at machine 1 and set balls 5. So might want to look at number 33 as well. So I'm just going to quickly do an analysis for number 33. So now the column of the grid under number 33 is filled in, and do we see any coincidences? So 33 not really pointing to any of these numbers. Does it point to the same numbers that the star numbers point to? Well, I'll leave that for you to analyse, but I'm also going to look at some of the other outstanding numbers. So for instance, number 19 is most outstanding because it's most overdue for its frequency at the moment. So I'm going to do an analysis now for number 19. So you can see these 2 squares of the grid are empty. Nothing stands out there, and I'll just pause the video to fill it in. Right, so now we've got the column for 19 filled in, and I can see some interesting little coincidences emerging there. I noticed that Star number 4 is most overdue with 19 and machine 1, and star number 11 most overdue for its frequency with machine 1 when we're looking at recent history. So that's interesting. The most overdue number with 19 is 22, but none of the other numbers point to that. However, 19 and 33 both point to 34 as being most overdue for its frequency. And looking at these numbers, do we see any more coincidences? Well, let me just show you something interesting about number 19 that doesn't show up on the analyzer. Right, we're looking at full draw history, all machines, all sets of balls, and this is a chart for number 19. Now let me just zoom in. Now it turns out that main number 5 is most overdue for its frequency with number 19. You can see 22 is most overdue, and these are the numbers that are most frequent. I noticed number 10 is one of the most frequent numbers. When we did the analysis for set of balls 5, number 10 is most overdue for its frequency. So 10 might be a good combination with 19. And also, I noticed that 38 is on the edge of the chart for 19. So 19 doesn't directly point to 38, it points to 5, but 38 isn't all that far behind. And when we do the analysis for star number 4 and star number 11, 11 points to 38 in recent history, and 38 is more frequent with number 4 and machine 1, and 19 almost points to 38 as well. So that's like 3 clues that seem to converge on number 38. So I'm going to do an analysis for that number. So I will instantaneously fill this column under number 38. Right, so that's filled in. Now I just need one more number to complete this, and I'm just going to show you the main chart, all machines and sets of balls, full draw history. These are the numbers that I'm picking, or that I've picked so far. So I've got 19, 33, 38 and 18 somewhere. There it is. Now the other number that stands out is, well, we've got the most overdue or the most frequent. Let's just have a look at a chart for 13. So on the chart for 13, star number 11 stands out as most overdue, and we've got 47, 12, I noticed 50s on the edge of the chart, then we've got 17 and 11 most frequent. So 13 points to star number 11, and star number 11 points to a whole bunch of numbers including 13, which is on the edge of the chart. So it's 38 and 33 most overdue with 11. So did I pick that up on the analyzer? Number 11, 33 most overdue. Yes I did. So that's a coincidence. So let's include 13 and instantly fill the column for number 13. So that completes the grid. Now, these are just some of the numbers, some of the main numbers, some of the star numbers. I'm not going to do an analysis for all of them because that'll just take too long. Check the time. I've already spent ages doing this video. But anyway, now I can show you all the coincidences between these numbers. So got 33 and 11 pointing to each other because they're most overdue with each other. 33 and star number 11, should I say. When we look at that in recent history, got 13 most overdue, star number 4 most overdue for its frequency. 11 points to 38, 38 most frequent, star number 4. Star number 4 is also most frequent with star number 11, and star number 11 is most overdue with number 13. And when we look at set of balls 5, we get these coincidences. Star number 4 most overdue and most overdue for its frequency. Star number 4 points to star number 11 most overdue for its frequency and most frequent. And when we look at star number 11, points back to number 4 in exactly the same ways. 38 pointing to number 11. Now machine 1. So we've got 18 most overdue, 4 most overdue, and they're both most overdue for the frequencies as well. Star number 4 is most overdue with 19. 38 is most frequent with star number 4. Star number 11 points to 33 and star number 4 both most overdue. So machine 1 in recent history, we get these coincidences. 18 most overdue, 19 most overdue for its frequency, pointing to number 4 in both those ways as well. 19 and 38 both point to 11, 4 points to 11, 11 points to 4, and 19 is most frequent with main number 13, and so is star number 4. Now when we look at set of balls 5 and machine 1 together, got 33 most overdue for its frequency, same with star number 4, also most overdue. So there's all the coincidences. So I could just delete all the numbers that don't coincide on there to show you what that would look like on a grid, but I don't really need to do that. So basically these are the numbers that I'm picking for tonight's draw. I'll just go through the 3 main variables on the chart. So we've got a full history, looks like that. Then we've got recent history looking like that. And then set of balls 5, that's the chart for the set of balls 5. And then we've got set machine 1 and set of balls 5 together. I'll just zoom in a bit. That's the chart for machine 1 and set of balls 5. Then we've got the chart for machine 1 on its own in recent history, and then machine 1 and the full draw history. Got 18 right up there at the top, and then the rest of the chart looks like that. Now I'll just show you the main numbers, and when we look at the main numbers we should always look at recent history since they went up to 12, to be fair, because if we don't then we're being biased against the star numbers that are not included in the previous draws. So looking at recent history, that's a star number chart for machine 1, star number chart for machine 1 and set of balls 5 together, and a star number chart for set of balls 5 on its own. So if you want to find some outstanding pairs of star numbers, because last time I only did it for the main numbers, but this time I'm going to do it for the star numbers. So, all machines and sets of balls, star numbers paired with 1, so we've got 5 most overdue for its frequency on that. Star numbers paired with star number 2, then 3. I know 4 is going to point to 11, well 11 most frequent, but turns out 5 is most overdue for its frequency on that one. Star number 5, 9 most overdue for its frequency. Chart for star 6, star 7, star number 8, chart for star number 9, and we got 10, 11, clearly 4 is most frequent with 11, and then we got 12, and now I will do the same for machine 1. And I'll just go through them all very quickly. So that is about all I've got time for in this video. I hope that it helps you to pick some winning numbers for tonight's draw. Really the chart you want to be looking at is the one for machine 1 and set of balls 5, and that looks like this. So pick your numbers from that. Good luck in tonight's draw. Let me know in the comments if you win. I'm sorry the video is so long, but I had a lot of interesting things to show you. And also, coming soon, I know I've only got one row of this grid that's live at the moment, and I'm having to flick through the rows, but eventually I'm going to make the entire grid completely live, complete with coincidences, so I'll be able to switch on and off the coincidences and look at all these charts simultaneously for any combination, once I've finally figured out how to get all these squares on the grid live without using too much of the resources that Microsoft Excel allows. See, this is pushing the resources to the limit just to get 8 analyzers in a row. So once I've figured out how to minimize the resource usage and get it down to minimum as possible, I might actually be able to fill the entire grid and make the whole thing live, which will be very interesting, and it'll save a lot of time in future. So I look forward to that. I hope you look forward to the next video as much as I do. So bye for now.